Hello, everybody, and welcome to Hit and Hustle from IrishSportsDaily.com. I am your host, Greg Flamong, and this is the first morning after recap of the season in 2023 following Notre Dame's win yesterday over Navy 42-3. If this is your first time catching the show, what this is just I talk about the game, just I guess not really final thoughts, just morning afterthoughts, so that we can kind of dissect. Everyone slept on the game, and so some of our impressions become a little bit more clear about what we saw, how we feel about it. The first thing that I do every single morning is I check, Twitter. I check the stats. I check the PFF stats and all those different bits of information. And so I'm always itching to talk about the game when I wake up. So I decided to start a show, and it was quite popular last year, so I decided to run it back. Thank you, everyone, for being here. There's a ton of interactions in the chat so far, which I really appreciate. We're going to get to that. So if this is your first time catching the morning after recap, and if you didn't catch our instant reaction show yesterday, you're going to want to subscribe to our channel on the Irish Sports Daily YouTube show. Subscribe to that, please. If you like what you hear, hit the like button, hit subscribe, hit notification bell. Links, this will go up as the podcast as well, so I'll put it up on the pod feed. Links to the podcast are in the description below. And before I get going, I need to talk about VSR Media because I forgot to talk about them yesterday in the recap show. So I need to talk about them. If you like the new intro that you saw for this show, that is done by VSR Media, which was founded by Notre Dame football pregame host and Emmy award-winning anchor Fahid Sadrazadeh, who I believe was in Ireland yesterday with the ABC crew, ABC 57 crew. VSR Media provides professional and cinematic video and photo. Whether you're looking for a collegiate or pro-level highlight reel, have a personal story to tell, or aiming to diversify and grow your business, VSR Media specializes in short and long-form video storytelling, social media management, and website design. VSR Media also captures professional headshots, senior, and sports photos. Contact them at vsrmediacompany.com. Mention Irish Sports Daily to receive 20% off your first project. Visit them online or give them a call at 574-800-9106. All right, let's get to some of the comments in the chat straight away. CMAX says, did I see the pic of Joe Alt and Conor McGregor? I did not. I did not see that. So if there's a way to put it in the chat, I'll put it up here. D. Beasy, good morning. How are you? S. Gomez, happy winning Sunday morning to everyone. Josh Spangler is here. Rob M. Jason Smith, Patrick Nolan, ND for life, John Murphy. So many good comments. All right. First time already subscribed. Thank you, Josh Spangler. I really appreciate that. Let's see. Jason Smith says Tobias and Sam will hit that missed touchdown a couple times this year, in my opinion. Absolutely. I think a lot of people, I think the narrative around Tobias is that he wasn't stepping up or wasn't ready to step up. I think that he's going to be fine. Jamie and I talked about how it's going to be different people every week. They very easily could have connected on that. Tobias is running wide open by 3 or 4 yards. Nendy for life says he got tackled. Absolutely. I don't know how you're picking up that flag. What you saw is that exactly what happened. So that's what it is. But I'm not concerned about Tobias at all. There were a couple other plays that I just saw in the replay where if Sam had a little bit more time, he had Tobias going on another go route, on a couple go routes actually. So I'm not worried about it. It's to me, it's not a concern. The other wide receivers went off. Jaden Greathouse obviously had a huge game, and interestingly, we'll get into this later, but I think that it was interesting the amount of snaps that Greathouse and Colsey got. 8 snaps for Greathouse, 7 snaps for Colsey. I mean, I felt like they were out there a lot more than that. I'm not going to go back and check, but maybe I don't know. It seemed like they were out on the field a lot more than that would have, implied. Because I just didn't. I thought they were out there a lot more, but 8 snaps for Greathouse, 7 snaps for Colsey. Obviously, very productive in those snaps. So it was a good game for those guys. It was good to see the receivers, making plays. I obviously Jaden Thomas had a really strong game. We saw the one drop from Tobias on the screen, which I know he's going to be frustrated about. Andrew, 20 plus snaps for Gray was shocking. We weren't shocked. Jamie and I weren't shocked. I think it was a little bit more. I think it was because of the fact that it was a blowout. That they wanted to get Ben Morrison out of there. They wanted to get Cam Hart out of there. There's no reason for them to, be putting their bodies at harm's way. Jaden Mickey had a bunch of snaps in the game. I think he was just behind. I think he was in the 27s. The snap counts for him. I think he had 27s. Let me just check that for you to make sure that is accurate. Jaden Mickey, 27 snaps. And Ben Morrison, 30 snaps. Cam Hart, 29. So they got him out of there. Christian Gray with 21 snaps. So it was they wanted to get those guys out of there. It was a really good opportunity for the staff to get multiple guys in the game. So let's Bob Duato. So here's the thing. Rico Flores, 19 snaps. Jaden Gray. I just feel like maybe that's not correct, and which is unfortunate because if we can't be trusting the counting stats from PFF, then that's really bad. Jaden Greathouse with 8, Rico Flores with 19. Tobias is down for 35 of the 58. So I don't know. I mean, those stats should be the easiest to count because it's like literally no subjectivity at all. It's just writing down who's out there. So, but we'll get into that stuff. Snead's snap count was 27 snaps. 27 snaps for Jalen Snead. So before I get into all that, I just want to give an overall takeaway of what I thought, and I mentioned this on the instant reaction as well. I just think that this is a big offseason for Marcus Freeman. Coming off of last year, he's starting to make the program into his own. And the way that they came out on both sides of the ball, they were a little bit sloppy tackling, which is, the option is a big contributor to that. I think the rain and the slickness of the field was a big contributor to that. But in terms of their assignments, in terms of guys knowing where they needed to be, being sound, the guys aren't running around lost. They aren't turning guys loose with Navy because when you're not organized against Navy, they're going to hit you for some big plays, some big explosives. We didn't see that in the game. They had one kind of missed coverage from Thomas Harper that led into a 35-yard or a 39-yard gain for them. Obviously, in the first drive, they had a pass where a couple guys were running free, but I mean, these are isolated incidents, right? So I thought they were on point. Offensively, I thought the operation was very good. That was probably the most impressive thing that I saw in the game and what I took away from it, just how they executed and how well they were prepared for what their plan was. It's one thing to have a good plan. It's another and have a good script and have have good ideas on offense of what you want to do. It's another thing to get your guys to be able to execute that plan. I thought Jared Parker did a great job. I thought he had not only, again, a good plan of what he wanted against the blitz. We saw a couple blitz beaters like on the first drive with draw play to Audric Estime that went for 10, and then they slipped Audric Estime out into the flat. Which really got their linebacker confused. And that's a screen. That's not one of those things where, he's slipping out of the backfield and everyone else is running routes. Like that is a planned screen because he's designed to catch it behind. It's a screen without the lineman going out essentially. Because if you look on the replay, the receivers are all blocking. They're not looking to run routes. So I thought they had a good plan for that. They executed very well. And look, major tests for Jared Parker coming out. First time offensive coordinator, obviously a big game for him, right? In terms of just like his career and his life. Got the chance to call Notre Dame offense, 7.8 yards per play, 27 first downs on 58 plays. Just really good stuff from him. So I can't be more impressed with that. I couldn't be more impressed with just how they managed the offseason. Marcus Freeman took a chance with the physicality in practice. He talked about that. And when you want to go physical, you are basically just, I'm taking a chance that I'm not going to incur a bunch of injuries. I'm not going to get a bunch of guys hurt. Because we've seen, Brian Kelly, he at first, early in his career at Notre Dame, he was physical, guys got hurt, he pulled back, and he said, I'm not going to do that. Marcus Freeman said, you know what? In order to be the team we need to be physical. We need to be competing all the time. And he took a chance. He came out fortunate, right? He didn't incur a bunch of injuries in camp, and the team looked physically ready to go. So that, I thought that was a big part of it. I'm just going to get to a couple other comments in the chat. Let's see. Jason Smith says, one thing I like to see was after Love's first run, he seemed a little hesitant at the hit. The next one, he made sure he wasn't lasting thought about him. So I think what you're saying is Jeremiah Love, he got hit. He kind of got spun around a little bit. I thought that he had another long run where he could have bounced it, kept it up inside, kept his head down, and then made a few extra yards, and he was looking ready to break away. But, obviously Navy kept after it. But that was it was one of those runs where I thought, Dylan McCullough said, Jeremiah Love is about that life. I think that's true. I think that bore fruit. Jeremiah Love is about that life. And so I thought that was a really good example of that. So it was good to see from him. Jay says I think the only thing that scares me is DJ Brown. I don't think he scares me. I think he had the one bad play where he missed the tackle, and then on another one he slipped in coverage. Again, the field is slick and that sort of thing. I think, but that we do have to understand with DJ Brown, like this is his 5th season. We've seen this, right? Like, we know what he is. I think he's going to be solid for Notre Dame. I'm not concerned about him in the sense that, we know he can play. We know what he can do as well. I would expect to see a lot more Ramon Henderson in the coming weeks as you get away from the option offense and that sort of thing. I'm not worried about that. I thought just on the main, I thought JD Bertrand played a good game. PFF has him down for 4 missed tackles, which is, you don't want to see that. You don't want to see that. 2011 or 2021, he had a ton of missed tackles on the season. I think a lot of people chalk that up to the wrist and how he had a pretty bad wrist injury there. Last year, he cleaned it up, and 4 missed tackles in the opener. You don't want to see that. Andrew's making the point about Jack Kaiser was very assignment sound, but would like to see him attack a tackle instead of let the guy fall into him. I think Kaiser was a little bit too after the ball in this game, just generally. It's just you got to get guys on the ground. He had one play where obviously he's trying to strip the ball as he's making the tackle. The back gets away from him, and that was like a little back too. Like, that guy was not big. So that was interesting to see. Jay makes a good point. I think if Biaggi was aggressive, we'd have blocked 2 punts. Hopefully he ups the aggressiveness. He definitely did not take chances. There were a couple times where it looked like if they had sent one more player, they would have gotten in. So that'll be interesting to monitor going forward. It's just I liked the one Chris Tyree. That he had a nice little return there where he slipped down again as he was going to make a cut. There was the previous punt, the first punt of the game. I thought I wanted to check his confidence, and it was a ball that he let fall, which didn't end up hurting because, again, it was a very wet field, and I think the grass was a little bit. It wasn't going to be conducive to a bunch of like hit the ground and roll. It wasn't going to be conducive to that. But it was one where it's like a confident player runs up and catches it. Now, it's wet and everything, and I totally credit that, right? I've returned punts before, and I never dropped a punt, but it was one of those things where it's like sometimes it's like I'm good to let these hit the ground. So that was something to monitor. But I thought the one punt return he had was good. They looked like the blocking was good. They got about 10 to 15 yards on it, which you'll take every single time, which make every single time there. Let's see another comment from Josh Spangler. Navy week always makes me nervous with injuries. Came out pretty clean. Yeah, we didn't hear anything about injuries from the players, anything that's going to be long term. So that's another one. Let's see. JP, good morning. Greg, nice game plan by Parker. Wide receiver screens are back. Rudolph run game plan looks awesome. JP, thank you for being here, JP. Parker had the screens in the game plan. The wide receiver screen to Colsley obviously hit. He makes a man miss, and there's nobody left, and goes and runs for a touchdown. I thought Rudolph had those guys ready to go. And the other big story from this game for me was Pat Coogan and Rocco Spindler looked good. Obviously probably not perfect. When we all watch it back, we're going to notice some things from those guys where you think, okay, like there's a little bit of, turning guys loose. There was one play where, it was the pass on the sideline to Deion Colsley when he made that really good contested catch there. Someone comes free. I think it was the B gap in between Alt and that would be Spindler. I'm sorry, Coogan. It would be Alton Coogan comes in between there. Maybe it's a Jeremiah Love mistake. I don't really know because he was also back there. Like maybe he stepped to the wrong gap. But if they're able to pick up that block, that was one where Tobias had more than a step on the safety, and he's running free with no one behind him for a touchdown. Obviously, it worked out. Sam Hartman made a great throw under pressure. And speaking of Sam Hartman making great throws under pressure, 6 of 6 when pressured, which is by my math 100% passing, and 84 yards and 2 touchdowns. So both touchdowns were thrown where he was under duress. As we all saw, the touchdown to Greathouse, the one over the middle, he's getting hit on his knees. He's basically just flicking the ball. He's not stepping into it or anything. So that makes that a really good throw. I questioned just when it happened, like, is that guy diving his knees for no reason? But it looked like the defensive lineman tripped over the foot of Coogan. So not a dirty play by him. So we're gonna leave that there. Jay notes JD Bertrand ran down the running back on the pitch. JD looks solid. He did. That was a good athletic play. JD Bertrand's a good athlete. Made the play on there, and it forced a 4th down that I don't think they converted. So or then maybe they just punted, which the Navy coach, man, you got to be more aggressive. You're 20 point underdogs. You got to be going for some of these 4th downs, man, because all you do is you punt to Notre Dame and then they go down and score a touchdown. It's not going to work. You cannot be kicking to the superior offensive team. When was the last time? This is a good question. Tyler Borgman. When was the last time a tight end didn't even get a target in a game? Woo. It's a good question. That's I'd have to go look that up. What's interestingly, they were out there a ton. Mitchell Evans, 50 of 58 snaps. So he was out there pretty much all the time. Holden Stace, 39 of 58 snaps. So, I think they were Mitchell Evans ran 19 pass routes. Holden stays with 8. So it's that's what it is. It'll be interesting to monitor that going forward. Maybe it was just a game plan thing. I don't know, but that's a good question by Tyler. Let's see. Jay, what type of offense does Tennessee State run? We'll get into that. Jamie and I will get into that next week, probably on Thursday. So that's something that you're going to want to look out for. Subscribe to the channel, please. That would be great. You're going to catch that. Tobias needs to compete for the ball. He needs to step up. I don't have any concern about that. I think that ball it's late. And not only is it late, the trajectory is really low. Like, it hit the corner on his shoulder pad. It's not like he stuck his arm up and he got his hand on it. Like, it hit him in the shoulder. After he's hitting Tobias, right? Like, it's a penalty 100% of the time. They threw the flag and then they picked it up. I just don't. I don't like it. I don't like it. Andrew says, was Pine's unwillingness to check down his weirdest trait by far? Um, I think what you see in from an experienced quarterback like Sam Hartman, he has confidence being back there. His internal clock is different from everyone else's. Like he knows what to do. He knows what he has time to do. The touchdown to Gray House is a really good example. Like he's scrambling around, he's scrambling around. He knows where to look. He's not tucking and running there. He knows where to look. He knows what the coverage is, and he knows where he's going to have an outlet, and he finds Jaden Greathouse by himself in the end zone. Like that sort of thing is what you get from experience, where he's not going to get rattled by really anything. He knows like, oh, that we've got a free rusher here. I have to get the ball out to Dion Colsey, right? And I know that it's zero coverage, so the DB's not going to be looking and sitting on something. So he doesn't have to worry about that. Like, so his experience allows for that sort of thing. He always knows where the check down is going to be. So to me, it's like that's not a Drew Pine trait as much as it's just a lack of experience by him. And the same thing from Tyler Buckner as well. So that's part of the advantage of having Sam Hartman on your team. And so that's an important thing. Brian Haney with a very good question. How can you tell if the win was that impressive or if it was just Navy? It's to me, it's an impressive win versus Navy, and that's all you really want, because that's all you can do. All they can do is have an impressive win against Navy. So I think the crux of the question is this repeatable for Notre Dame? Can they sustain this level of play against better competition, right? We're not going to have that question answered next week because Tennessee State is probably a worse team than Navy in a lot of ways, right? Especially up front, So we're not going to have the answers to that question. I think that a big part of why I'm optimistic following the game is because of what we talked about before in terms of their organization and their assignment soundness. Like any team, Navy is a type of team that obviously can confuse Notre Dame. They confused Notre Dame the year before, right? Like they asked a lot of questions that Notre Dame didn't have the answers to. And yesterday, that was not the case. It seemed like everything Navy was doing, Notre Dame had an answer for it. Now, whether or not it was executed perfectly is another thing, but generally it was. Notre Dame had 27 first downs on 58 plays. Like Notre Dame, like that is a high level of execution, and that's always what you want. Like that is what signals to you, the fan, and to the coaches, like, hey, we have prepared this team, right? So it's an impressive win versus Navy. Now, you're going to have different questions against a team like NC State, right? Where physically it's going to be a lot more difficult for Pat Coogan and Rocco Spindler. That's going to be a different set of questions. But I think the fact that they were able to execute that in the opener, and then you saw the amount of different ways that Notre Dame can, different people at the running back position, right? Like I don't think we're going to see too much, Devin Ford. I think they're going to ease in Jadarian Price just by his snap count, right? Like they didn't give him a ton of work. Like I think in the NC State game, it'll be a lot more Audric Estime and Jabron Payne. But I think the wide receiver rotation, like that will continue to be a thing where they get different receivers in there. Like we said, they didn't even throw to the tight ends. They didn't throw to the tight ends yesterday. Like obviously that's something that Notre Dame has in their bag. So they just have a lot of options. And I think that having Sam Hartman again ensures that the level is at least going to be, I don't know, as close to what we saw today from because here's the other thing. Okay. Great game by Sam Hartman. He didn't do really anything so special that you think that's why we have Sam Hartman. I know a lot of people like to say that, but yesterday was not indicative of what Sam Hartman can do. It's not. He can take his game to another level. So I think the difference between this year and obviously the previous year is that this is all repeatable. They didn't do anything super special yesterday. They can do this again, right? And so this is where I'm optimistic about it. Is because there's nothing they did that was like, oh, I don't know. Like, for example, like we've seen Notre Dame, like if it'd be one thing if it was sloppy and then we just saw, a team Notre Dame team play where it's like someone fell over, like they threw a ball and someone slipped, and that's how they got their points. Everything was executed very, very well. And so again, it goes back to the level of execution. That's going to be repeatable. The way that they played yesterday is going to be repeatable. It didn't look like it was very difficult for them. It didn't look like they had to extend themselves. So that's to me, Brian, and I hope this answers your question, is that it's an impressive win versus Navy. They're going to get tougher tests, but it's all repeatable. This is all something they can repeat over and over again. So thank you for the question. That was a good question. Greg, if you were in charge, who would you put back deep to return kicks? I'd put Love back deep. I'm surprised Payne is back deep. Well, I think Payne is, in my opinion, not meant to be the kick returner. He's not the deepest guy. I think they wanted to go to Devin Ford, and we didn't really see him get a chance. So I want to see Devin Ford get the ball. I don't really mind Jeremiah Love not being back there because they're giving him touches on offense. And if you're giving him touches on offense, then you don't need to put a freshman back there when you have someone else in Devin Ford. So that's how I view it. They gave him work. They gave him the ball. They gave him the ball early. I mean, first half, he got work. So it wasn't like it was a garbage time situation for Jeremiah Love. So I think that I'm fine with Devin Ford until we see him, right? And maybe later on it makes more sense to do that. But for right now, I think I'm okay with it. But we'll monitor. We'll monitor that, Jay. We'll keep an eye on it. Esteban with a really good point. Good morning. To Brian's question, when Notre Dame is good, they take it to Navy. When they are so-so, they struggle against Navy. I think that's a good point. I mean, there's a really good correlation between the way Notre Dame performs against Navy and how good their team is. Obviously, the 2012 team, the 2015 team gave it to a good Navy team. 2019 gave it to a good Navy team. That's an 11-2 team. 2016 obviously lost to Navy, right? 2017 was a little bit different just because of when it happened in the season. I think that team was beaten down by that point. 2018 team gave it to Navy. And then 2021 gave it to Navy last year. 2022 was, an 8-4 team, and they were crushing Navy early and then they struggled. So I think that's a really good point by Esteban there. Good contribution to the chat here. Esteban, another question. Do you think Tobias is trying too hard given he dropped a pass he should have caught? Is he thinking about it too much? It's possible. I mean, I do think that Tobias is the type of player who really wants it. And I know he was frustrated by the drop on the screen. So I could see him pressing a little bit, and look, he'll get out of that. Like to me, it's just, again, it's. I don't want to make too big of an issue of it because I haven't. It's not like I speak to Tobias, so I don't know how he feels about it. Just my impression is he's a kid who really wants it, who really puts in the work, and who really works hard. Like he's working really hard in the blocking game as well, in the run game. So his effort level is there. I'm not concerned about him. He's going to have some really big plays for Notre Dame this year. I just think we can all be patient. And I think he should be patient as well. Tyler Hack with a shout out for Isaiah Rutherford, got a pick 6 for UMass yesterday. So good for him. Good job by him. Able Gaming. No, Tobias has not been thrown out of practices for not knowing his assignments. It's not lack of it. I don't think that's it. First of all, he got 35 snaps yesterday. So he was second of all the wide receivers in snaps. I just don't, I'm not, I don't think that's it. You know, they wouldn't put him out there. If it was that, they wouldn't play him. Notre Dame has shown they won't play him. I just don't agree with it. I don't agree. And I reject. Um, Larry Brown. I think they had other options last year, just didn't have a quarterback that saw the whole field. Yeah, didn't have a quarterback who they allowed to see the whole field. I bet you they were a half field team last year where they didn't like all the quick stuff we saw yesterday. That was all available to Notre Dame last year, but they didn't throw it. But they didn't put it. I don't think they put it on Drew Pine's plate. And if they did, then he didn't take advantage of it, and that's another problem. So all the quick game stuff we saw last year, it was all there. Um, do 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 do. Josh Spangler. Not that I held my breath every time Book Jack. Ian Book, Jack Cohn, Drew Pine through, but man, it's refreshing to have confidence back in QB1. For sure. I mean, he definitely is in control, and I think that's nice, right? It's nice to see someone in control. I don't love comparing to other quarterbacks because it's just I think we forget, we forget that how it was with other people. Like I think if Sam Hartman played 37 games for Notre Dame, like we'd find his warts too, and we'd lament those. Like he had a good game yesterday. In Jack Cohn's opener, he threw for like 370 yards and 4 touchdowns or whatever it was. Like he had a really good game in the opener too. So, yeah. I think Gerard Parker will get Tobias involved early next week. I mean, he was involved yesterday. They threw him a touchdown. If they called it, they had a touchdown for him. It was underthrown. It happens. Like I'm not super worried about it. Like I think the Tobias thing is like way too much. Like Holden stays. What did he do? He was blocking. They didn't throw him the ball. No one's like, where's Holden Stays? Like Rico Flores, they didn't really throw the ball to him. I mean, like, no, I got you, Jason. You're good. I got you. I just think because it's too much. It's too much in the chat right now about him specifically. Like there were a lot of players that didn't. I mean, Chris Tyree, like he caught one ball. They had another ball where he was interfered with. Right? It's like it's all good. It's all fine. Jim Frank says 5 running backs, enough snaps for everyone. I think this is a question. I think this is a question about is there enough snaps for everyone? I don't think that we're going to see that type of rotation week to week. I just don't. Like so yesterday, let's see. Yesterday you had Devin Ford got 6, Jadarian Price got 5. So they're the lowest. Jeremiah Love was 7. Payne with 17. And Estime with 23. So Estime doesn't even get half the snaps again. I think a lot of that had to do with the fact that he fumbled. And that's the thing for Audric. Listen, if Notre Dame's going to have that many running backs, any of you put the ball on the ground, that's going to be a problem. I mean, Audric got 23 snaps. And they had him in the last series of the game, which why is he out there? But they had him in on the last series of the game. You think Payne and Jeremiah Love get red shirt? I do not. I don't think any of them get a red shirt. No way. Well, Payne's on kick return, so that's not happening. I don't think so. Jeremiah Love is not a 5-year player. He will not be around in his 5th season. You play him. I think he has to. I think he has to play. Yeah, I'm confused, C-Mac. You said Payne gets a red shirt, and then you said unless he gets hurt. I'm confused by that. Okay. If Love was going to red shirt, they would have saved him like Snead. Yeah, he's playing. barring injury, he's playing. They gave him snaps in the first half, and he showed out. He had 4 carries for 40 yards. He looked good. So it's just like, if you're gonna, the only thing is the pass blocking, which there was the one play that I again, he was the back in the backfield when a player came free. I don't know the assignment, so I'm not gonna speculate on that. Just generally speaking, a freshman is going to be behind in pass blocking and that sort of thing. So yeah, I mean, Tyler says Estime needs to hold on to the ball better. Too many fumbles, even if he hasn't lost many of them. I mean, yesterday he was obviously, and the unfortunate thing is, he fumbled on a big run where he broke a tackle, broke into the clear, and he had the ball in the quote unquote wrong side, right? The defense is to your right. You want the ball in your left hand. But he gets it punched out. It's wet or whatever. But then they took him out, and it's like, look, you can't be putting the ball on the ground like that. Do you think Audric switches hands if it's not wet? Maybe he does. I mean, he does like it in that hand. That's usually the hand he's got it in. But I think it's that. Plus, he had just gotten popped, right? So maybe he was a little bit like, just let me get out and go. It's just an unfortunate thing. Let's see. Johnny Soper. Thanks for being here, Johnny. Haven't seen you before. Hopefully you've subscribed to the show. Hope you're having a good time. I think an underappreciated aspect of this year's schedule is the way we can ease into the season and the fact that we got Navy game out of the way first. Absolutely. 100%. They follow up Navy in Ireland with Tennessee State, who Notre Dame will handle very easily next week, or at least they should, knock on wood. Man, that would be a stunner, wouldn't it? But yeah, the way that they're able to ease into it, you get the first 2 weeks, and then you got the road game against NC State, which will be a test for the team, a lot more so than the other 2 games. And then you've got Central Michigan, and then you've got Ohio State. So I think this schedule sets up a lot better for the team. I'm sure Tyler Buckner would have loved to would have had a similar run up last year, but that's the way it goes. That's the way it goes. Okay, so we had a couple coverage takes in terms of NBC yesterday. Man, I thought Jason Garrett did a bad job. I don't like it. It's just he's like rooting, like and it's not that he's rooting for Navy like against Notre Dame. Every time Notre Dame plays Navy, there is an air of the chippy underdogs. Like, hopefully they can make this a game. It's very annoying. It's very annoying to listen to. Like, just treat them like a regular opponent. And this is another reason why. This is another reason why I don't love playing the game at all, because they get treated like they're the little giants out there. I mean, Navy has been ranked before. They've been a ranked team. They've beaten Notre Dame. It's just, treat them like a normal opponent. You don't have to tell me how mentally tough they are 100 times in 2 hours. You don't have to do that. Like, it's honestly, after a while, it's patronizing. Like, just stop. Tobias is interfered with. Oh, I think it's a good no call. Like, is it? Is it a good no call? That we got recovered fumbles? It's just like, oh, it's okay. It's a close call. Like, tell like it is. No Eagle was fine. No Eagle was. I think he did a good job. Yeah, got him. When 2 Navy receivers are open on 4th down, like he's. No one's yelling about. No one's yelling for Tobias, who's running wide open. Like, we're not doing that. So I don't know. I don't like that coverage, and I thought the officials were terrible. They just did a bad job overall. That's the way it goes, I suppose. It's a good thing it's 42-3, and you don't have to worry about that. Robert Hallecky, thank you for being a long-time listener. I really appreciate that. Thanks for providing this morning after show. Perfect listen while getting morning exercise session in. Perfect. That's the point, man. That's the point of this, to get it all out, and then we can move on with our Sunday. NBC has too much on its plate now. I hope Notre Dame takes its TV contract to TBS when it's done. No way. No way. Because here's the other thing NBC did. They had like an NIL promo. Like you could contribute like $30 and you could. So NBC's doing the NIL thing. If NBC's doing the NIL thing, then you stick. And look, Pete Bavacqua, a former NBC executive, is now the athletic director at Notre Dame, or going to be after Jack Swarbrick leaves. Like, it's just that's staying, man. That there's no way that go away. Larry Brown, good question. You think QB2 should have played the whole fourth quarter? You know, if they're not going to be throwing it, it kind of doesn't matter, right? Like, I understand we all want him to play, but if they're just handing off, it might as well be me or you or anyone, you know. I just, if they were going to play him, it needed to be in the third quarter. And I guess this is a question for I guess Marcus, if anyone wants to get into that on Monday. And just what are you trying to get out of things with Sam Hartman back there? In terms of like game's over, you know, like it's 35-0. Like that was a good point. It's 35-0, and you know, you've got the ball. Is that a good time for Steve Angeli? Like, is that drive, because you're throwing the ball with Hartman? Like, is that a good time for Steve Angeli to give him the offense and let him actually run things? You know, but maybe, I don't know. Maybe they don't feel comfortable with him in that scenario. I don't think that's okay. He should be comfortable to come in a 35-0 game against Navy. If you've planned the game and you've prepared him to go in, he has to be prepared. Any injury to Hartman, he's got to come in and play. So I think that was the time. If you're going to have him come in and just hand off, I don't really care if it's Hartman at that point. I mean, but like, to me, you've got Estime in the game. Why do you want him out there? So that's kind of how I feel about it. Ryan Shields says, better to have Hartman continue to build chemistry with the offense and offensive line. If Hartman was 3-year starter, I'd say sit in fourth quarter. That's not a bad point. That's a good point. You know, maybe that was the thing. You want him out there with the offensive line, although they had the backups in. Or actually, no, not at that point. Not at 35-0. They didn't have the backups in. So maybe they just wanted more reps. Listen, they didn't run a ton of plays. So maybe it's like, listen, we got to get more plays in. Because they probably would have been, if it was 35-0, they pulled him, it would have been under 40 plays that he's out there for. And maybe they just wanted more tape, you know, which is fair. I think that's a fair take. If you want more tape out there of your guys, of your starters to, you know, be able to work on things, try other things. They tried. There were a lot of people who didn't love the screen pass that got blown up to Jabron Payne, but that's one that they hadn't run yet. They've probably been working on it, and they wanted to get it out there on tape. So I think that's a good point. That's a good job by you, Ryan, on that point there. What you think of the clock running after first down? When does it stop? In the end of the half. So final 2 minutes of each half, the clock will stop like normal on first downs. What do I think of it? I think that no one asked for this, and they want the games to go faster because they want. So it's not really a Notre Dame problem because they've usually just been the only game, but it is kind of like when Notre Dame is like on ESPN. So like 9 o'clock kick, right, on ESPN, or for me, 9 o'clock noon kick on ESPN start every day. Well, the next games that come on are at 12:30, right? And what happens all the time is the morning game runs into the afternoon or the evening game, the 3:30 kick. And so, you know, you've got to scramble to find what channel it's on. It always starts on a different channel and then it moves over. I think what they want is they want it to be smooth. It's just like that with the NFL. That's why the NFL is like that, right? So the NFL has the 1 p.m. kicks and the 4 p.m. kicks. Or now they're 4:30, 4:45 kicks. But they want the games to start on time when they're supposed to on the network that they're supposed to be on. That's why they're doing it. right? So what do I think of it? I don't like it. I think you should, because you can't run a play. The clock's running, but you can't run a play because they're setting the chains. So that's the point. Is that's why they stopped the clock originally, because it's like, if you can't run a play, then why is the clock running? We have to get set up. Notre Dame can't. If you get a first down, you can't run on the ball and snap it because we're setting up the chains. So that's part of the problem, in my opinion. But that they're gonna do what they do. They don't like me and they don't care. So yeah. WK Blue Ball. I think if they score on the missed field goal position, Angeli would have been out there. Yeah, I mean that's part of it, right? Like it hurts. It hurts to miss a field goal. They could have scored a touchdown there, and then you get Angeli out there. But it frankly it shouldn't have mattered. And that, like, 35-0 still. It's still fine. Estimating you stop fumbling the football. That would be good. Jason Smith says, I'm okay with that in NFL, but not my beloved college football. I mean, look, in a couple years, we'll get used to it, and it'll just be the way that it is. That's just the way that it is. Like any new change, everyone will be averse to it. No one likes change, right? With the conferences and everything, no one likes change. But as soon as it's in your life for any amount of time, it's just everyone will adjust, and that's the way it goes. I thought it was interesting yesterday that Notre Dame, like, they were the ones in the first half who were basically bleeding the clock on Navy, because the thing with having an efficient quarterback like that and being a running team, the clock is not stopping because you're completing passes and the ball is staying in bounds. And even if it goes out of bounds, now they stop it first and then they set it and they start it up again. So if you're not having a bunch of incompletions, then the clock's gonna keep going and going and going. USC is like this, right? They're a very efficient offense, and they run the ball, and Caleb Williams is very accurate. That clock, they can burn clock very, very fast on offense. So that's something to look out for with Notre Dame. When you got a really accurate and efficient quarterback, the clock's gonna go. So that's something that we should keep in mind. Just a couple of things on the grades. I don't love the PFF grades. I think mostly it's just kind of a bit, but it's interesting that of the 5 highest graded players, 3 are wide receivers: Deion Colsey, Jaden Greathouse, and Jaden Thomas, and one's the quarterback. And I think last year it was predominantly linemen and the running backs and Michael Mayer. Like, it was Michael Mayer, some linemen, every now and then Drew Pine, Audric Estime, or Logan Diggs, and that was how it usually went. Got some wide receivers out there, so that's good to see. Let's do some defensive grades. Javonte Jean-Baptiste was number 1. Jack Kaiser 2, Marist 3, Patelho 4, Burnham 5. I do want to talk a little bit about the linebackers and how that snap counts went. We talked about it yesterday on the morning after recap. It was noted that the only other linebacker to play beyond the starters was Jalen Sneed, and I think that this was a game. I think we're going to see a ton of Drake Bowen next week. I think we're going to see a ton of Jaden Osbury next week. This was a senior game, right? We are going to play JD Bertrand, Maris Leofau, and Jack Kaiser a ton because you're playing Navy and you want that experience against Navy, right? I would have liked to see, like, especially at the end, again, once it's 35-0, get those freshmen out there, because look, Bertrand, Kaiser, and Marist most likely aren't on the roster next year. And you don't want a crew of linebackers who have never played the option. Okay. Now, I think that they'll eventually figure it out, right? Like, everyone plays the option for the first time at some point, right? They can eventually figure it out. But I think at 35-0, you could have gotten those guys out there. at 42-0. Could have gotten those guys out there, or 42-3 or whatever it was. Get them out there. Let them see it. Let them get used to the speed. I mean, obviously they've been practicing it. So I would like it if they had gotten those guys out there. But clearly this was a game where those senior linebackers were going to get the bulk of the work. Marist was absolutely on fire. Absolutely on fire. Terrific performance from him. Terrific performance. Is Xander here? We had a good game. I was hoping to see some positivity from Xander today. I haven't seen, you know what, Jason? We haven't seen Xander in a few shows. Hopefully he's just watching later, listening later. I like Xander, even though he's, he'll challenge you. He'll challenge convention, and I think that's fine. I think that's absolutely fine. It was great to see Christian Gray get out there. They obviously really like him. Jaden Mickey was an absolute beast in the run game. Loved his run game contributions. So yeah, not too much from Ben Morrison or Cam Hart, which is fine, right? Keep him healthy. Playing freshman helps recruiting. I think that entire performance yesterday probably helped recruiting. Like, if you're a wide receiver, you love what you see. You love the variety, the way that they're running the ball, the number of backs they're using, the number of wide receivers they're using. Jaden Greathouse is getting in the game, catching touchdowns. Rico Flores got in the game. So it's just it all looks good. And that's the thing about having a good operation like that, a smooth operation. It's very it's very affirming, right? It's very affirming to see. That's like, yeah, like Notre Dame's been telling me they got this really good offense, and now they go out there and they look terrific in their first game. You see Deuce Knight add the score to his story. Are you referring to the Notre Dame score? Because I didn't see that. I need to be more on Instagram. I'm not really on Instagram that much. But I need to do more of that, especially I have videos. I do videos. I should be on Instagram. So let me know, Tyler, if that's what you're referring to. If you added the Notre Dame score to the Instagram story. I mean, look, Matt's. I don't want to say I think he thinks Notre Dame's in a good spot with Deuce Knight. And if he goes early, this is just my opinion. If Deuce Knight decides like soon, it doesn't go into like deep into the year, I think Notre Dame would be the pick. That's just my opinion. Just basically what it was score. Oh, okay. So apparently Deuce Knight shared the Notre Dame score and then Sam Hartman's stats. That's lovely. Cam Williams went off this weekend. Cam Williams is an absolute smoke show star. Love Cam Williams. Terrific play. Micah Gilbert looks good. Logan Saldate looks good out there. Really like that. I was down on Saldate originally when I saw his sophomore tape, and I thought it was junior tape. Saldate looks good. That's a solid take for Notre Dame. I'm in on that. Yeah, Cam is a dog. So yeah, really encouraged by that. It's good vibes all the way around for the football team. 42. We were on the show yesterday and we were saying like he had nothing negative. There's no negatives. The only thing is the lack of explosiveness on offense. The long play of 35 yards. You want to see them get behind the defense. You want to see them break a long run. You want to see a deep ball over the top, 50, 60 yards, something like that. You want to know that they can do it. You see where it could come from, right? Like Tobias very easily could have had one. Chris Tyree could have very easily had one. So it's there. Jeremiah Love was close a couple of times. Audric Estime was close a couple of times. But it does need to happen. That's one thing that it does need to happen. And it's so that's the thing that I'm monitoring. I hope to see it next week. Next week could be a little bit fool's gold, and like how often we're going to see that, because it's hard to extrapolate that sometimes into, like, you could play a team like Tennessee State. You could get some missed tackle stuff, like some fluky explosiveness against a team like Tennessee State. is that going to be sustainable over when you play tougher opponents? That'll remain to be seen. But I will take it. I will take explosive plays from the Notre Dame team next weekend, no matter the opponent. But that's going to come with a caveat. No matter what happens, is it going to be sustainable? I think the defense will be excited to play more of a standard team. Standard offense, running plays that you can actually, your defense is set up for. They can throw away the Navy book for the rest of the year. So that's good. Larry Brown, thanks, man. First time checking you out. Hit subscribe button. I'll be rocking with you all season. Thanks, Larry. And if this is your first time and you're not in the chat, I know a lot of people. We got 163 people in the show right now. Not everyone is in the chat. A lot of people just listen. If you like what you heard, hit the like, hit subscribe, hit the notification bell. We're having a good time. I love doing this show. I love talking about the game. And I think that's probably a good place to end it for a really good conversation. Thank you, everyone, for being in the chat and providing good content fodder for the show. It's always good to check in with the people. This is how it always is, right? Sometimes we go heavier on stats. Sometimes we go really heavy in the chat. And it's heavy in the chat. I like to talk to people and see how they took in the game. Craig D says, thank you, Craig. And so with that, I'll be back with Jamie at least on Tuesday, and we're gonna do kind of a mailbag. I don't know when we're gonna do a mailbag. We might add a show. We might be adding a show. I'm not sure, but we'll be doing a mailbag sometime next week when people have questions about specific plays or something like that. We can talk about that. We'll be talking about the game. They'll be on Power Hour tomorrow with Mike, Jamie, and I think Matt are at least Mike and Jamie talking about the game there. So there's going to be a ton of content from irishsportsdaily.com. Check out irishsportsdaily.com. Sign up and be a member at irishsportsdaily.com. It's really good. We really love what we do. So yeah, thank you, everyone. Have a good rest of the weekend, and we will talk to you on Thursday.